Kids are in a tough spot these days. There's so many influences and there's so many negative influences and they're pulled this way and that way.
That's a huge reason my mom got me into this program, because she knew I needed to have some sort of figure in my life that could kind of guide me along my way, and Bob perfectly filled that role. He got me out of my shell a lot more. He's been a huge help with that, because I probably wouldn't play golf at all without him.
We went to a par 3 course, Harvard Gulch, for just some fun, and I loaned him some clubs. And he fell in love with it.
Over time, it's been a great way for me to connect with Bob, and it's been a huge door opener for me, because now I'm hoping to play for college at the University of Wyoming. So I'm hoping to play there. I work for a golf course. I play golf almost every day. It's been golf constantly, just because I want to keep improving. And every time me and Bob would play golf, he'd beat me, and I can't let that stand.
Boy, he's getting better fast, and he's equal to me or better than me now.
I remember the Broncos-Bengals game that we went to, and we both wore the hats. That was just something extra to kind of show it's like, you know what, we're close. Those times where you can bond are something special that I'll probably remember for the rest of my life.
Welcome in the DNVR Avalanche podcast. If you can't tell, it's Spirit Week here at DNVR, and today is Big Brothers Big Sisters Day. So make sure, you're supporting a great cause. You're partnered up with us, a bunch of amazing people over there. Obviously, we're running a fundraiser. You can donate down at the link in the description of the video, or if you're watching this on YouTube after the fact, there should be a sidebar you can click on to donate. We've raised a ton of money for an awesome cause, but we're trying to hit $10,000 this week. So let's keep going. Let's keep supporting them. They're an amazing organization.
You guys are going to let Blackhawks and the Flyers beat us. We're already past the Stars. We're fine. I don't have to worry about Dallas. But we are in 4th place, and that's without Phoenix having a hockey team, damn it.
There you go. We got to at least pass Arizona. Get it together. Get it together out there. You can head on over to bbbs.org/ALLCITY as well if you want to learn more about them, maybe give them a little bit, or consider becoming a big too if you want to support the kids. It's awesome all the way around. Highly recommend. Haven't done enough for them. So check them out. Big Brothers Big Sisters of America, bbbs.org/ALLCITY. Today, we're going to be talking about contracts and salary cap shenanigans. We'll also get into some of the Avs trades and how we feel about them now, maybe how we could feel about them in the future. But let's start off with the news, which is this news? I don't, this could be a complete nothing burger, but allegedly the NHL is investigating the Edmonton Oilers for potential violations of the LTIR system surrounding Evander Kane. This whole situation feels weird. One, this didn't get reported until after the Cup final was over, which could have crazy implications had Edmonton won the thing. Two, the NHL has clearly not cared about this LTIR loophole for years and years and years now, so it would be weird for them to start doing it now. But I mean, good thing or bad thing that the NHL is doing something about this. It's been pretty clear the league owners don't really seem to care about it, but the fan base certainly doesn't seem to like the LTIR loophole. Where do you guys stand on this thing?
They did some shenanigans, man. I think it was pretty obvious at the time, because it was like, oh, Evander Kane's ready to go. Oh, actually, Evander Kane has something that he needs to get a procedure done for, and his recovery timeline lines up with the first week of the postseason. Wow, What a huge shock! Like, at the same time, though, they made this bed. They set the stage with this, allowing the Patrick Kane thing to happen, allowing the Nikita Kucherov thing to happen, and then allowing Vegas to just dance with the devil every single spring. They did this. So I'm like, did Edmonton do something shady? Yeah, probably. But so what? You said that this was fine. Why is it now all of a sudden a problem? The side benefit of this is that it really ramps up the Edmonton victim complex, which is always a delight to watch from the outside. So I'm enjoying that part of it personally.
Sure.
A little technical issue here with my earbuds, but hopefully, can you hear me pretty good?
Yes.
Yeah? Yes. All right. Well, here's my take on it. I think they knew from the get go. As soon as it was, like you said, Vegas or whatever, it is what it is. I never complain about it. But I think that from the get go, you have a CBA, and then you knew that there's nothing you can do about it until the new CBO is rectified. I mean, it's just the way it is, right? So now that we know they're starting to talk CBA because you're going to need a new one coming up, and they say talks are going well, that's going to be something that is going to be talked about. That it's that simple. And yeah, I mean, do I call that cheating? I don't know. I mean, it's part of it, right? You know what I mean? I mean, you can look at it so many ways. Is it fair? No. Is it going to get fixed? Yes. It will get fixed, you know, because it is a loophole. But in the meantime, it's tough to, you know, unless you're saying like you did a full blown investigation into each scenario. You know what I mean? Then it's like, man. But for me, it's going to get fixed in the next CBA, and then there'll be something else after that. Because people are creative, people are smart, and then they find ways, you know, and to stretch it as much as you can do. That's
Yeah. Look, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Pretty much rings true across all of major professional sports, especially in a situation where teams said, "Hey, you just let everybody do this for the past 8 years, longer than that, really." I don't have a problem with if they want to close the loophole. Awesome. I think the NHL salary cap desperately needs to be simplified in some ways. I get that it's more complicated than just, hey, you can't do this anymore, because you need situations that solve actual injury problems. Look no further than the Gabe Landeskog situation for that. But it just feels weird to me that the NHL is like, hey, how about this one team this one time? We're gonna investigate it and we're gonna look into this. When, like AJ said, you could investigate Mark Stone every single year for this. You could investigate any number of players, and it's even more crazy to think about when not 12 hours before there's pictures of Sasha Barkov's hand getting posted all over the internet, where it's like, yeah, this dude's hand was basically falling off of his body, and he was still playing hockey. And it's like, especially with the warrior culture of hockey, where do you draw the line? Like, you could play through a lot of injuries, but should you? Maybe, maybe not. Like, I get that teams are very clearly cheating the rule, but it's just so hard to define what is okay and what isn't with a rule like that. So a little bit tough for me.
Look, when the league investigates this and they're like, yeah, we're good, then we can stop pretending like the NHL is out to get the Edmonton Oilers. Like, the same franchise whose relevancy has been built entirely on draft lottery luck, like unprecedented draft lottery luck.
Having
So
4 first-round picks fall into, or first overall picks fall into their lap. Like, I don't know.
like, girl, stop. Just stop. It's fine. It'll be fine. It's silly that this came out, but then, you know, Saravelli immediately started walking it back and was like, sounds like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't.
There just isn't a lot else to go on here. That's where I'm at with it. So is what it is.
Yep.
All right. More news, but from the future, sort of. The NHL's first buyout window of the offseason opens today, opens about an hour after our show ends. We've talked a little bit about the Avs situation. Maybe it's a potential option for Miles Wood if you're struggling to find a trade partner, someone to dance with there. You could buy him out. Yes, it would be on your cap for a long while, but it would be a pretty decent margin of money saved if you're the Colorado Avalanche. So my question is, one, would you be potentially considering a buyout of Miles Wood? Two, how does this process work? Because of this buyout window, does this accelerate the Avs? Have they talked to everyone around the league about Miles Wood at this point? And then three, is there anyone else on the list for the Avs that would even be considered for a buyout right now?
Yeah, for me, it's only Miles Wood, and even then, you can have a legitimate conversation about exactly how many, what the savings truly are going to be, because you buy him out this year, you save basically $1.8 million, but then you have to replace him with somebody. So, are you really saving money, or are you just getting rid of the guy at that point, and then you're committing to 8 years of him being on your books? Now, those savings are 1.8, 1.3, 1.3, 1.3, and then it starts to cost you $700,000 per year for the last 4 years of the buyout. Yeah, it's a small number, but for one, I think I am concerned that the Avs are going to be one of those teams that will have an internal cap as the salary cap continues to go up. I don't know that I'm not convinced that the Avs are going to spend to it and that they'll have an internal cap. And those are monies that you're going to probably want in the future. And two, trading a guy at the nadir of his value is always bad business. Just always is. If he's healthy next year and he's just in your lineup, he makes sense to have him on your third line, assuming the Avs do nothing else, of course. It makes sense to have him on your third line, and with Logan O'Connor's injury, he can kind of rotate around your bottom six as needed. If he builds back that value and gives you a good year, great, then he's easier to move. Or you're just happy because he had a good year and you're hoping that he's just solid again. The big problem was that he was just so bad last year. And the same reasons that the Avs are going to want to move on are the same reasons that other teams aren't going to be super enthusiastic about acquiring him. Though after Trent Frederick's 8-year deal yesterday, Trent Frederick is better than Miles Wood, but right now Miles Wood, if a team is acquiring him, is acquiring a 4-year contract at $2.5 million per year. Suddenly that feels like a pretty good value. It feels like a fair value. I don't even want to say pretty good, but it feels like a fair value. The only reason that we would be having this conversation about Wood is because the Avs are so tied up against the cap right now that it's like, hey, where can we actually cut a corner here? Okay, but you're not. If you buy him out, you don't save $2.5 million. You save 1.8, and then you have to spend that money to replace the guy. All in all, you're talking about maybe saving a couple $100,000 here. It's really the only reason that you do that is if you really, really think that he's done as a functional NHL player. And I don't know why you would believe that. I know it was a tough year, but that would be a really strong stance to take after 40 games or whatever. So,
yeah. I think I'd probably be more open to it than it sounds like you are, AJ. But again, you're talking about operating under the assumption that Miles Wood is essentially your 13th forward if you're considering buying him out. He's playing on your third line. $2.5 million is not that big of a deal. If he's your 13th forward, $2.5 million in your press box is awfully tough. It's hard to sit on that. I want to get your thoughts on how this operates and how teams get called and figure out situations like this. But before we do have to take our first break of the show. So let's make sure we're doing that and, keeping ourselves in business as We are brought to you by Cake Mortgage. Cake is the business owner's home mortgage partner. Look, if you're a regular employee of a company, you get a W-2, your income shows on your tax return. Traditional lenders love that because it's super easy, it's super simple, but it's way more complicated if you're a business owner. By maximizing legitimate business deductions and expenses, business owners can reduce their taxable income and keep more money in their business. This means that their tax returns show little income. Most lenders don't understand this type of complex income, so they get denied for home loans and refinancing. Cake can get business owners approved by validating their cash flow through bank statements, certified profit and loss statements, or business tax returns. It's great for creative professionals, contractors, tech entrepreneurs, business founders, freelancers, and anyone who eats what they hunt. Head to the link down in the description to get started today. Cake Mortgage. You can go to cakehome.com or 1-888-EAT-CAKE, as you can see on screen, to Cape Mortgage Company, Cape Mortgage Corporation, even equal housing lender, NMLS number 1734623, licensed in Colorado by the Division of Real Estate. Terms and conditions apply. Once you've got your home mortgage figured out, you've earned yourself some delicious chicken fingers. Maybe you're heading out on your summer road trip. You can order at raisingcanes.com or on the mobile app to satisfy your chicken finger fix in a snap with Raising Canes. Raising Canes, every chicken finger is hand battered and cooked to order. Every crinkle cut fry is crispy and perfectly salted, and every Texas toast slice is buttered to perfection. Of course, all of that is made even better by the Raising Canes sauce, which is made in restaurant every single day, ready to be dipped in. You hungry yet? Get your order in today at Canes and keep the road trip going. Raising Canes chicken fingers, one love. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Walk me through a front office having conversations about Miles Wood.
Well, I think AJ was bang on a little bit earlier. I think those conversations since the end of the year happened. They all sat together, right? Let a little bit of time go by. It still stings. It will sting until next year, the loss. But what are we doing about this new roster construction? How do we go about? What do we have coming in the pipeline? We all know that's not a lot. What do we do trade-wise? And then what do we do with the assets that we already have? You know, they had a discussion about Miles Wood. It's a normal conversation. It's a normal situation. He signed. It hasn't worked out. That's first and foremost. It has not worked out. Does the coach feel it can work out? At the end of the day, he's the guy that's out there. He's the guy making the decisions. Contrary to what people think sometimes. And yeah, some general managers are in their ears on the bench sometimes, and you better play AJ, you better play Rudo, or make sure Tiff doesn't play that much. You know, I mean, there are some micromanagers, you know, but for the most part, the coach, if he feels that he's not going to use Miles Wood on this example, or he's not going to play him, or he doesn't feel like he fits into his lineup, then something needs to be done. Like AJ said, it's not what people think. It's not millions of dollars you're saving. You're saving in the thousands of dollars, right? Because of the body replacement. Somebody else needs to be there. So now, with that said, if player feels that he is adequate, he is healthy, again, they don't have to tell us everything, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that he was not healthy last year. And he played himself out of the lineup. Now, that's on you. That's on your injury. It's not on the coach. Coach can only play. I mean, if you're available, then you're available. You know what I mean? And that's what they can do. Now, he might have played himself out of the lineup. You know what I mean? And who knows where this is going injury-wise. I think if he was needing surgery or something, you would have heard something by now in my book. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, not a doctor, only play one on the show. I think that they've had a conversation with him and the agent, and where is this going? Now, if they feel that he has lost his value and nobody wants him, then you have to look, and that's why they have a capologist now, because, again, you need people that are smart with numbers and how to figure it out, and maybe that's the option where that's the best option, not only because you're saving a little bit of money, like AJ said, not a lot, but also you're opening up a spot now, and you know what I mean, for someone else. Like, you know, what are you going to do about it? So maybe you're doing it not for cap reasons, you're doing it for roster reason, meaning in your four lines you want something else than Miles. Now, maybe Miles comes to camp and he has a great summer and he's ready to go. Again, those conversations are privy to him and management and the coaching staff? Well, no. I mean, we'll see. The buyout window's opening, like you said, here shortly, and you'll see if he's a candidate. He certainly is a candidate because of what we just talked about. So now, do I feel somebody else? I don't believe so. You know what I mean? I don't believe so. But yeah, they've looked at it, and and you're going to see here the answers. You know what I mean? And you're going to see here what his value is towards the draft, right? You know what I mean? And if he hasn't been moved by then maybe your value's really gone down the drain, and that happens. That's life. And in order to have another buyout window, that you need someone to file for arbitration. So maybe you wink at one of your guys to file for arb. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean? There's so many rules and so many little like quirks, whatever you call that. You know what I mean? That you can try to figure it out and go from there.
Let's flip this on its head then. With the buyout window opening, is this buyout situation an opportunity for the Colorado Avalanche to go bargain bin hunting or whatever you want to call it? If there are some players that get bought out, should the Avs, obviously it's going to depend on caliber of player and who gets bought out, if anyone, but is this a way that the Avs can find a way to save money by picking up one of the names I've heard out there that a lot of people are expecting could get bought out is TJ Brody out of Chicago. Is that something the Avs could look at to save money, or realistically, if a player's getting bought out, should the Avs just avoid it?
I mean, that's entirely on the player, but in the case of TJ Brody, he's done. Brody would have been a really good fit for how the Avalanche like to play like 5 years ago. But the last 2 seasons, his game is completely cratered. It's completely cratered at this point. He's 35 years old. I mean, the Avs need to go and find a guy like that for their third pairing, and like, it's easy for me to say, do I think he's better than Keaton Middleton? Maybe, but I'm not even sure of that at this point. Which makes me feel like, what's the point? Like and that's not to, that's more about Middleton being like your 7, right? Like he's like your rotation, he's your injury fill-in guy. And I don't know that Brody's even above that anymore. So are you really even getting better? And for me, that answer is no. And so in the case specifically of TJ Brody, I'm good. If you want to go and get a guy from Chicago, it should be Connor Murphy, since they're not going to give up Alex Vlasic because he rocks. But like Connor Murphy would be the one that you would want.
Is Vlasic rocks? Is he because he's a Buyout Terrier? Or do you like him because he's a good player? I mean, that's one question. Secretly, we know you like the Terriers, AJ. That's okay. B, as far as bargain hunting, yeah, and that's why you got to be on top. And I'll tell you one thing. Whoever the Avs have, pro scouts and stuff like that, like you're in charge of a certain amount of teams. Every team's different, Sometimes you have guys that have the whole Western Conference. Sometimes you have guys that have one division. Anyway, you know everything about that team. So you study that depth chart. You know exactly who's going to get bought out. You know exactly who's not going to get qualified. You know exactly who's going to get not qualified but signed by the team. It's just because he has an ARB case that would be too rich for the team to do, but there's a deal in place. So you know exactly what's going on. And if you don't, you shouldn't be in there. Right? You know what I mean? You shouldn't be, and that's why there's good ones and there's bad ones. I'm talking about staff members. So the Avs have some good ones. They're sharp on the pro side of things. I believe that if there's someone, and you're talking about bargain hunting, that is not going to get QO, they'll be on top of it right away if there's an interest, right? And you got to remember, there's always an interest on the other side because I'll say it again, and we are lucky and it's cocky. Who doesn't want to play with Nathan MacKinnon or Kel McCarr, right, on your team? So it's just very simple. It's an easy sell, right? If there's a bidding of teams and but teams now and players now, they want to know the fit, right? They want to know where they're going to fit. How are I going to get it used? Am I going to get used on the PK? So you do the bargain hunting. And then as far as TJ Brody, I agree with Chad, I agree with you. I would tell you that 10, 12 years ago, this is a guy we heavily went after. Always in the good grace of the Avalanche, rank net ratings, and he was high out there. I would agree that I think it's past his prime. Wonderful career, but and also playoff wise, you got to look back and playoffs. You got to be able to elevate your, as we saw the last few weeks, and I don't think it was his forte back then, and I certainly don't think it would be his forte now. So I would be a hard pass.
Yeah, it's. I don't know that I would have any interest in TJ Brody really, but I did want to use that just as an example of like, this is what bargain bin hunting is in the NHL. When you're down to it, when you have no cap space left, you kind of have to make a guy work. You have to look at options that maybe aren't the prettiest, maybe aren't the best fit, but something you think you can get function out of. AJ, I know you did a piece on reclamation options for the Avs. So if y'all want to go read that, go become a diehard today. Go check it out. Great work from AJ. Maybe not quite as deep in the barrel as TJ Brody on AJ's piece, but you're talking about potential unqualified guys and maybe some technical ex-Avs on that list too. So,
well, and we're talking about buyouts. I had Jesperi Kotkaniemi on that list just because Carolina being able to buy him out before his 25th birthday, they would save so much money. Instead of paying 66% of his contract in a buyout, they would be paying 33% of it. Only eight of the $25 million that are remaining on that contract will get paid out to him over the course of like 10 years. And I think that's probably the thing that will stop Carolina from doing it, is that he would be on their books until 2035. Now at a small number, like a couple $100,000 per year, but I don't think that his sub $5 million AAV is really like it's not so onerous that it's going to prevent them from being able to operate. And it's not like he's a bad player. He's just a disappointing player relative to both contract status and where he was drafted. He was overdrafted. He's been overplayed. He's like a fine third line player, and that's fine. But if Carolina were to make that decision, that would be a guy that I'm like, Colorado should be like really working to try and get that guy in there into their system and get him in, because I think he could be a pretty good fit in Denver. And then they could sign Jonathan Taves, and they can have Kotkaniemi and Charlie Coyle, and they can just be like, hey, we're a team of centers. As you said yesterday, do the Team Canada thing. Oops, all centers.
I'm down. I'm down to try it. I'll put it to you that way. There is somehow still more news coming that happened from today. So we will have to get to that, but we do need to hit our second break of the show first. So let's make sure we do that, and then we can talk about Matt Duchene. We are brought to you by Empire Today. Make sure you're jumping in with Empire Today. You can get a great discount, $350 off your new floors when you go to empiretoday.com/DNVR or use the DNVR code. Empire Today are the professional floor guys. You can go get with them. You can get all the good stuff, whether it be carpet, hardwood, tile. They only carry the best products, and they're super easy to use. You could go in if you want, but you can also go online and use their tools there to measure out your room and see what it looks like in that space. Or you can get a free in-home estimate scheduled today. Someone will come out, they'll bring flooring swatches. You can see what it looks like in your space with your furniture, so you know what you're getting when it comes to your new floors. Get with Empire today even, and schedule that free in-home estimate, because some things are just better at home. Again, the DNVR code can get you a $350 discount off of your new floors over at empiretoday.com/DNVR. You heard that right, a $350 discount. Of course, restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DNVR for full details, or you can always call 1-800-588-2300 Empire. Once you got your floors, it's a good foundation to start from there, but maybe you got a little fun money left over, and that's where Bet365 comes in. They're an official partner of us here at DNVR and the Colorado Avalanche, as well as the Denver Nuggets. So make sure you're jumping in with them. Yeah, hockey season might be over. Basketball season's about to be over, but you can still bet on baseball. I mean, Rockies have won a few games. If you've bet on them to win lately, you probably made really good money. I would stick with betting on them to lose. They're going to lose a lot more games, but you can bet on other baseball stuff too. A bunch of other summer sports going on. You can bet on through the Bet365 app. Look, I like esports. The Counter-Strike majors going on right now. You can bet on that even. They've got it all at Bet365. So make sure you're jumping in with them and using the DNVR365 code. When you do that, you get $150 in bonus bets when you put $10 in your account and put $5 bet out there. Win or lose, you don't even have to hit the bet. You get the $150 in bonus bets with code DNVR365. Jump in, put in the $10 and get with Bet365 and have some fun. The bonus bets can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Of course, when you do gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. All right. The last bit of news I really have to cover today, Dallas extending Matt Duchene, a 4-year, $4.5 million AAV deal for him. That probably locks up Matt Duchene for the rest of his career. The player itself, we know who Matt Duchene is here. We don't need to go over this again. Avs fans are very familiar with him. But it does leave Dallas in a situation where they have essentially no cap space left, not even enough to sign a league minimum deal. Dallas still has a lot of work to do this offseason. Who's in a worse spot today, Colorado or Dallas, when it comes to their offseason work to do?
Definitely Dallas, because they actually have work to do, like that they have to do. Colorado doesn't have to do anything else other than sign Sam Malinsky to a deal, and then like even Ivan could just take Logan O'Connor's roster spot to start the season. Like, the Avs don't have to do anything. Dallas has $400,000 of cap space, and they've got 9 forwards signed. So they have to do stuff. They have to do stuff. The deal for Duchene is fine.
Yeah. Just allegedly Mason Marchment is being shopped around the league.
Of course.
As what
He's
Dallas
going to be
would do
moved.
to free up space. Yeah.
But again, like, the buyout window, we're talking about buyout window, they need to buy out Matt Dumba. Because why would anybody take that guy on at this point? Unless Dallas is attaching draft picks, which they're lighter on than they have been in a long time now because they've continued to trade them. But part of their appeal of trading Mason Marchment is because they want to bring Mikhail Granlund back. Why? Your defense is still bad. You're going to buy out Matt Dumba, or you're going to trade Matt Dumba or Ilya Lyubushkin, which were the big deals that you signed last summer to fix the right side of your defense that predictably did not go well.
Yeah, I agree. I do believe Dallas is in worse shape because of what you just said. They need to make moves. They need to sign their own guys. And it's funny. I'm going to quiz you here. Mason Marchment, how much does he make?
I have it right here.
What'd you say?
4-5.
Marchment make 4.5. That's my point. That's what we say all the time. Dallas Stars is the same problem. It's like the Avalanche. Anyone making 4 to 5.5, someone's getting moved. It's just life. You're gonna get moved because you're not gonna move unless you make it a blockbuster and trading Robertson or whatever it is. And who knows? Again, we don't work for them, but then the logical guys are the guys that make, 4.5 because it gives you space. It gives you room. Miles Wood falls into that other category that we talked about earlier. At 2.5, like if you're buying them out, like your body replacement, so when you're making 4.5, you're starting to save. You know what I mean? You're starting to to make room for other guys to get signed. You got to remember, that's a hot potato, Jamie Benn. That's their captain, wants to stay there. Right? It is a hot potato. To what degree? To what? I mean, they all want to stay, but then you're like, okay, stay. I'll give you $1 million, and then they're like, no, right? So it's just the way it is, right? So it's like, so it's not easy, and those guys have given their careers, their heart, their whatever, their whole lives, to that team, that city. So I get it on the player standpoint, but then it's a business on the other side. Then you got the fan standpoint, right? You got most people, they love them. The other people are like, oh, move on from them, right? So it's a hot potato. It's a touchy subject, and you got to make sure you approach it right. And he's in that boat of people that needs to be signed, right? As we know. And we'll see what happens. But then Dutch, yeah, good on him. Whatever. It is what it is. And then even around the league, Donato, that's, what is it, 4-4? So that's probably the Druin deal from last year that he never signed, right? Because he did the Avs a favor. Remember? That was probably the deal Drew was going to sign. But he signed that, 1 year, 2.5, whatever it was. And then the injuries took over. So, again, who would you rather have? Joe Druin or Ryan Donato? I'm serious. I
mean, probably Druin, but it's
Yeah,
close.
same.
That's what it costs.
Yeah.
That's what it costs. Yeah.
Fair enough. Do have to move on here onto the main topic of today's show. And I wanted to revisit the 9 trades that were made in season for the Colorado Avalanche last year, because I want to kind of track this throughout its phases. We had they made it phase, the reactionary phase. We never really dove into it after the Av season ended, and we're sitting in the offseason, and we now understand, for the most part, who's staying in Colorado, who's going from these deals. Obviously, there's more to do. So I don't know if we necessarily want to give each trade a grade right now, but we'll kind of do the vibe check on each trade, and then we can check in 6 months in the middle of next season where we feel on these trades, because I think it's important to kind of keep track of how these things evolve over time. The difference in the Brock Nelson trade from him being a rental to him now being here for 3 more years alone is a big deal. But let's go in rough chronological order here. I guess technically there's 10 trades. The Branstrom one happened in preseason, and it was for Tucker Poolman's LTIR money. There's not a whole lot to say there. We can move on. So the first in-season trade on November 30th was Scott Wedgwood for Justus Annunen and a 6th-round pick. Wedgwood, 1 year left on his deal. How do we feel about this one, as is June 19th, the offseason after this trade? 1 thumbs up.
1 thumbs up.
2 thumbs.
2 thumbs.
Okay.
Beautiful trade. And it's a move that's paid off, and it's going to pay off. Great human being, great locker room guy. I'll say it again. Look at the Panthers and all they talked about the last 2 days about their group and everything. You need guys like that to make a group tight. And if people think it's not important, it is so important. It is so important. I think he's a valuable piece, not just on the ice, but on the bench and in the locker room and on the plane and on the train and on the bus and at the meal room. Awesome trade.
Obviously, the Predators had a disaster of a season, but certainly Annanen's numbers there don't look particularly great. So on a statistical basis, it does not seem like the Avs made the wrong decision. At this point, Annanen's career could end up being a very long one. It could be a short one. We don't know. But at this point, it does not feel like the Avs gave up much to get a better backup goalie. So pretty positive vibes on that one, and I expect extremely positive vibes on the next one too. I really don't think the Avs could have done any better at goalie than what they did with Mackenzie Blackwood. They acquire Mackenzie Blackwood, Giovanni Smith, and a 5th-round pick in 2027. For Alexander Georgiev, Nikolai Kovalenko, a 2nd and a 5th in 2026. Blackwood now extended for the next 5 years. That goalie position is, at least in theory, locked up entirely for Colorado. The only negative at the time was people felt like it took the Avs too long to get the deal done and get a different starting goaltender. So I don't really have anything negative to say about this one.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll add something else. Everybody's crying around the National Hockey League, and no offense to Stu Skinner, like I said, I believe he's a great guy. He looks like a great guy, but if you think for 1 second that the Edmonton Oilers weren't trying to upgrade their goaltending, I think you're wrong. Of course, if you're a player, you're never going to throw under a bus one of your teammates that looks like a great dude. Like I said, it's hard. But at the end of the day, if you don't think the Edmonton Oilers were in on that deal, then you're I don't know, you're on something. Because 100% they were. They had to. And then the Avalanche, it drags. And I remember it was dragging. And I think, being in the front office before, you're scared that you're going to lose it. You're going to lose the trade. And they went down that path for sure, because there was other suitors. And the Avs pulled the trigger. And for me, that's another move that's going to pay off not only last year, but next year and the year before, the year after. So I think they needed to, and I think they did it, and they went for it. They knew they had to change, and they've known for a long time. This is not me and Chad saying that I don't like Georgiev. It's got nothing to do with liking or not. You're trying to win the Stanley Cup. The goaltending was not adequate enough, as the Avalanche showed us that it wasn't adequate enough, and Chris and the rest of the staff addressed it, and it's not easy to do. That is not easy to do. And that was an outstanding coup by them there. Outstanding.
Yeah, they went from being a bottom 3 goaltending team to a top 5 goaltending team mid-season, which never happens. So any complaints here are frankly stupid, and I don't want to hear them.
Yep. A good way to put it. All right. We can move on to the next trade. This is where things start to get a little bit more complicated. The Avs trade Andre Pavel and a 2027 third-round pick for Juuso Parssinen and a 2026 seventh. Parssinen did not work here. That was on December 28th. 3 months later, they end up flipping Parssinen along with Calvin DeHaan, a second and a fourth in this year's draft, for Ryan Lindgren, Jimmy Vesey, and Hank Kempf. This is kind of the paperclip. They turned Andre Pavel into a third-round pick 6 months later into nothing.
Well, Hank Kemp is in your system.
Okay, relax.
I mean, not trying to be a smart aleck here, but that's what you've got that's left from it. It made sense. The Parssinen move made sense. We talked about why it was kind of a sneaky, solid thing to do at the time, to take a chance on a high skill guy like that can bring some offensive punch to your bottom 6. And then he played like crap.
Yeah.
And you flipped him. And
you flipped him for some rentals and got eliminated. Yeah.
Yeah, the Parssinen deal wasn't very good, and then the Lindgren deal also wasn't very good. So, we were pretty Rudo and I weren't big fans of the Lindgren deal. Eric was a little more of an optimist there, and Lindgren kind of, at least statistically speaking, ended up being their worst defender in that first round series, and is somehow in line to get paid in 2 weeks in free agency. So, okay. Don't love that. That's not fun.
This is the dark side of rental deals, right? You essentially gave up Pavel, a third-round pick, a second-round pick, and a fourth-round pick, and then whatever value Calvin DeHaan had. He probably wasn't coming back to Colorado this year anyway. All for 20 games of Ryan Lindgren and less games of Jimmy Vesey, and now you have neither of those pieces signed. So that's a lot to pay for a first-round exit.
I agree. And that's where I agree with you guys. On the flip side, I'm putting my hat on uh, two parts of a player. I love that they give us reinforcement, front office. You know what I mean? Trust me, I've been in those locker rooms. You heard it this year. Was it Detroit? Remember, it was their captain that even went against Eisman and said, "Oh, we did nothing at the trade deadline." You know what I mean? Like, trust me, I've been in those rooms, and it is a sore subject when you get no reinforcement. Now, um, as a manager, same thing. You're like, I'm doing it, and this is the cost for lingering, and we'll get to it in a second. But he might walk away, he might go, but at least we have some reinforcement. We're not going to be caught like watching the train go by because we have an injury or whatever it is here and there. And next thing you know, we're in the playoffs, and then we're playing. I don't know what amateur, whatever. And again, I'm not bashing Wyatt. That's not what I'm saying. But a guy with no experience, right? You know what I mean? And you're like, okay, is that what we are really trying to do? Now you look at the acquisition. Well, okay, no offense to Andre Pavello, he's not an NHL player, so move on. Calvin DeHaan, no value. This was a contract. You know, I mean, you part of this deal is you got to take a contract, right? You're trying to get contracts, move out contracts. That's all that was. Just look at it. He got to Rangers and he played 2 games, never played again. So all of a sudden you played for 10 years because you have 2 bad games or good games or whatever. It was never in the plans to play him. They didn't want him. No offense to Calvin. That's right. It's part of the business. You got to take this contract. That's part of the deal. And then, a 3rd round pick. And then help me out here because I'm throwing so many names and you know me, like got hit too many times. But Camp, is he signed yet or no?
He has an AHL contract.
Yeah. I keep an eye out on him. You know what I mean? Like, keep an eye out on him. I didn't mind them. I know that they didn't mind him. Their guys didn't mind him. I've seen him. I think this guy has a chance one day to play. Probably not this year. You know what I mean? But he's not 18 years old. As we know, he's a bit older. So, and again, you might have be able to get him free in the free agency. Who knows? But if they only gave him an AHL deal, like maybe Rangers were never going to sign him, so you were probably going to maybe able to sign him. But they tried it. That's the way I look at it. Was it expensive? Yes. Does it look like a shot at it? Yeah, probably. And in my mind, he would be signed by now if he was going to stay. So for me, Ryan Lindgren is not staying in Colorado. He's gone. Or you would have seen him sign. Like we talked about Devontae's, Lieutenant Corporal Nelson. You know what I mean? Like, right? You knew he was going to sign because you're like, he's not going to wait till July 1st. And I think that's the same thing with Ryan. You know what I mean? Charlie's brother. I think you would have seen it by now. That's just me. I understand that there's triggers and July 1st is a trigger, all that stuff. Different type of contract, different type of situation. I think he was going to stay in Colorado. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but you would have seen it by now.
Yeah. The rumor mill states he's leaving Colorado, or at least testing the market. I'll put it to you that way. 4 trades left. One of them is Eric Johnson for Giovanni Smith. Cool. EJ gets his time at home, his last ride in Colorado, whatever. Not a whole lot to say there. Move on. Then we can get to the big 3 deals, the ones that everyone has been talking about. Everyone's going to keep talking about, depending on how the Avs go. And to be clear, look, in the moment is a different thing than today. The results kind of express how we feel about these trades today as opposed to in the moment. So I want to make it clear that even for trades that we may not agree with because of the results, I'm not necessarily bashing CMAC for them. It's pretty clear the Avs had the objective of going for it last year, and that's what they did. Obviously, some of the trades didn't work out, but I don't want to make it seem like we're bashing CMAC too much on this because of the trades that he made. We're just trying to be realistic about the results the Avs had through these trades. The big one, the Avs trade Mikko Rantanen. They get Marty Necas, Jack Drury, a 2025 second and a 2026 fourth, essentially the picks that they would go on to flip for the other rentals in Lindgren and Vesey in this deal. This one is hard to parse out. One, I'm not worried about what happened after. That's out of the Avs' control. That Mikko gets traded again by Carolina to Dallas. The Avs can't really do anything about that. Two, I think a lot of the fan base has a very emotional component attached to this that makes it hard to get down to the raw facts of this deal. It's as it is today. I still think this deal is fine. Is Mikko still a better player than Marty Necas is? Yes. Did the Avs add a little bit of depth and flexibility by also getting Jack Drury in that deal? Yes. The version of Mikko Rantanen that we saw in the regular season in Dallas is really not that much better than what you're getting out of Marty Necas in Colorado. Rantanen had the unbelievable hot streak of 5 games in the playoffs and then disappeared for the rest of the playoffs. So it's really hard for me to value this trade right now. And a lot of it is going to ride on what the Avs end up doing with Necas, whether that's extending him for whatever price it ends up being or looking to flip him again. And then we get into a giant branching trade tree that who knows how you feel about. But today, this offseason, how do you rate the Necas for Rantanen deal?
All right, I'm never going to go back on what I thought. I felt that this organization, CMAC, Joe, had no choice. I don't want to revisit the whole thing. For me, he left them no choice. They did it instead of having a Marner situation like today. But I think they would have, if they weren't getting the return that they felt was what they wanted, they would have played out the year and tried to win and let them walk, because sometimes that happens and sometimes you can solve your problems by then, But Marner sounds like it's not going to work, right? So he's going to go somewhere else and you walk away for nothing. Now, looking back, I do believe that in their minds, if they were getting in return a package of a Necas, then it's like, okay, we're doing it. And once they got it from Carolina, then it's like, forget again. We always forget about Jack Drury, but they're not essential parts of the trade, right? I'm not downplaying Jack. It's just a different level. I think he's very important. I love him, for the record, but it's not what's going to move the needle one way or the other, right? The piece is Rantanen. The piece is Necas, right? You know what I mean? And then you go around it. The rest is interchangeable parts. I love the fact that they got Jack. Was I sad to see Mikko go? Yes. Did I think Mikko was going to have a statue in front with the other guys? Yes. Again, I'll say it again. I still owe a Speedo run. I was shocked, but I understood it, and I believe he left him no choice. Now, with that said, time will tell. I think you do your homework, and you hope they did their homework on Marty, meaning like this is nothing new with the Group 2 problems of signing. This has been going on for a couple years, right, with them. So I hope they did their homework. I'm assuming they did, and what type of player you're getting. Again, everybody's a great guy. We're not saying you're talking about a team sport, so everything has to fit, everything has to file and rank, everything has to work, right? So I think you're a while away from saying who won that trade. You know what I mean? And then you go from there. And at the end of the day, Mikko got paid, and good for him. And he signed at the dotted line, so he must be happy. You know what I mean? And then he's somewhere else. And I think that everybody didn't anticipate it that way, including himself, including the players, including the management. So at the end of the day, I think the return was more than fair. And I think that, let's just put it this way, and I'll say it again, they're in a better situation than the Toronto Maple Leafs are with Mitch Marner.
That's definitely a fact on that one. 2 more trades left with about 5 minutes to go in the show here. I think pretty clearly of the big 3 deals, the Charlie Coyle one looks the worst today. The Avs get Coyle and a 5th-round pick for Casey Middlestat, William Zellers, and a 2nd-round pick. We don't need to rehash the Casey Middlestat thing. The fit was tough. It wasn't working with him as 2C. The Avs wanted to get out of it. Fine. Don't have a problem with them moving on there. But Charlie Coyle is now a $5.3 million guy slated to be your 3C this season and really did not play particularly well in that playoff series for you. That isn't to say he can't bounce back and have a good season this year for the Avs, or they can't find ways to get value. You talk about all the time. There are 30 teams in the league would very quickly snap up Charlie Coyle if he was available. But this one is the one that I struggle to see the Avs coming out ahead, winning this trade, barring him being a clutch guy in a cup run this season.
Charlie Coyle, you guys know that. I do believe if everyone's doing their job, everyone's playing up to their potential, above him, you're talking about the best third line center in the league. I'm just being honest. Now, yeah, he makes a little bit more money. Did it work out? Not in the few weeks that he was here. And if you look at it in the big picture, because they got thumped in the first round. I know chat's talking about retaining salary. Let's just put it this way. I wish you could have retained salary. I wish you could do this, but you got to remember, guys talk. The 32 GMs, they talk. They know. Everyone knows everything. Like you got people in the fields, and if they retain no salary on Boston, on Coyle, it's because they had a gazillion suitors for him that they would have said, yeah, I'm not retaining. I'm going to trade him to Team X because they're not asking me to retain any money. So I'm not worried about that. It is what it is. The market dictates itself, especially on the phone there. Did it work out? No. But do I like him? Yeah. If you're going McKinnon, Nelson, Coyle, I don't think it gets better than that around the league. It doesn't. And you put Jack there at 4. God, you're built for the long run. And that's why I was so disappointed, like everybody else, of that first round exit.
Yeah. The result is disappointing there. And to me, it's just hard to see where the Avs get value out of this trade. Look, Charlie Coyle could absolutely prove me wrong. He could go have a 50-point season as a 3C and everyone goes, oh, this is great. But that hasn't happened yet. Where we stand today, trade doesn't look good. The last one, Avs get Brock Nelson and William Dufour for a first-round pick, Callum Ritchie, a conditional third-round pick, and Oliver Shillington. Obviously, the price is very high. If you asked me a month ago, I would have said this is a really rough trade, not knowing if Brock Nelson was going to come back or not. But with Brock Nelson signed, extended for 3 years, slated to be the Avs 2C for those 3 years, look, the results are going to have to be there. You're going to need Nelson to produce for you. But I can sit here today and say, look, this trade may end up being good. If Nelson shows up, if he plays well, this could be a trade that solidifies the Avs top 6 and catapults them into 3 more years of cup contention instead of where I was a month ago, where I thought Nelson was going to walk and the Avs gave up a ton of stuff for 7 playoff games of Brock Nelson.
I mean, again, let's be honest. That would have looked bad, right? But again, I said it 10 minutes ago. You went for it. And that's got value. It's got value in your room. It's got value to your core. They went for it. Did it work out? No. Look at Florida. They went for it. Gave a first for Marchand, and people are like, "What?" You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't even a first. It was like conditional that becomes a first, which worked out. Even Seth Jones, and you're like, "Oh wow." You know, it's not like he was having a stellar performance the last couple of seasons, but it worked out. So they look like geniuses, but then the other guys look bad. At the end of the day, you're in good shape. And you got to live in the moment. If you're C-Mac and Joe, they lived in the moment, and that's why they went for it. And then, yeah, you pay up for the future a little bit. You have to, because their window is now. It's not in 5 years. It's now, and you have to do it, and that's why they did it.
Yep. Some good, some bad, some we will still see, and we'll have that check-in probably in about 12 months for you. We are ramping up here as we're winding down our time on this one. We've got more shows from DNVR to follow. So we appreciate everyone hanging out. Go check out Big Brothers, Big Sisters. Really go support them. They're amazing. This has been the DNVR Avalanche podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.